Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter, and today we conclude our three-part series into the story of Nina Cook, a 28-year-old woman who was tragically found murdered in October 2014. In episode 1, we met Nina through the loving memories of her siblings. In episode 2, we took a look into the circumstances surrounding her disappearance and the investigation that followed after her remains were discovered in Whitehaven, a neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, in this final episode, we take a deeper look into the case with forensic psychologist Dr. Debra Warner, who shares her insights into the case and what the limited evidence might suggest about the perpetrator. We'll also hear her family's plea for justice, for answers, and for Nina's life and death to be seen and valued in a system that too often turns a blind eye. This is the story of Nina Cook. On October 7th, 2014, Nina Cook's remains were discovered in an abandoned church building at 1175 East Brigg Avenue in Whitehaven. Her body, which was severely decomposed, covered with only a soiled curtain, told the silent story of violence. Fractures to her facial bones, sternum, and vertebrae indicated a homicidal violence, according to the medical examiner's report. The discovery marked the end of one chapter for her family, the not knowing of where she was. But then began another, the search for answers about what happened to Nina and who was responsible for her death. Her family previously shared with us the type of person Nina was. She was this very loving, generous, and forgiving woman. And according to Dr. Warner, her trusting nature may have made her vulnerable.
Predators look for certain traits in people, and they look for things about them, that will make it easy for them to take advantage of them, right? But there's so many pieces of her that were very interesting and unique to me. And I don't think we know everything about her. I think there's a lot of hidden secrets. And until we know some of those secrets, we're not going to get to what really happened with her, right? But predators have a typology and they know things. But a lot of times to get close to somebody, it's someone you really know. And she had such a friendly nature. She invited people in, right? And she seemed to have some trust issues with people in her life. And so that's one of the things when someone wants to take advantage of you, they want to do harm to you, they pick up on those nuances that I picked up on, and then they ingratiate themselves to you.
Investigations like these are often races against time. In Nina's case, the clock had been ticking for months before anyone had even realized that she was missing.
And what do they say? The first 48 hours, right, is when you really find out, you can find clues, right? But people's memories, they degrade, they change, they get altered, right? People forget, life gets in the way, and that's why those first 48 hours are so important. But the police didn't have that because there was such a span in time because of her pattern of behavior that they thought was normal. There's all kinds of things that can happen that can have been there on the crime scene that you don't know because of the time span, right? The person who killed her could have left a note and the window blew it away because of the time span, right? He could have been watching, waiting for the police to come find the body. Who knows? But the time span, he got tired, right? You don't know what could have happened there because of that length of time, but there could have been witnesses, there could have been people who have moved away. Time takes away different ways that you could have evidence. And that's the key here, to this. And you couldn't really look at her body in a way that you would do a normal autopsy, right? Because they said she was so decomposed, and they identified her I think, through her dental records, and she had something in her leg.
This made it even more difficult to pinpoint Nina's last movements and build out a timeline of events leading up to her murder. Her older sister, Lydia, said there were a lot of challenges and red tape from the very beginning.
I didn't understand. I thought the police could do anything. So I didn't understand why we couldn't get more answers, why her email couldn't be accessed, why checks and like the green dot card things couldn't be traced. I understood because I went to some of the businesses myself, and at the time, a lot of them only held recordings for 30 days, maybe 90 days. And we were far behind from the time that they found her body to the time that the investigation began.
Although there were certain obstacles, the investigation from authorities seemed promising at first. Nina's younger sister, Kenya, recalls a brief period where police were actually putting forth a real effort. How do you feel as if the investigation was handled from authorities from that point moving forward?
From that point moving forward, similar to what Lydia has expressed, it was very, very communicative. I remember in the beginning going down to the station, to the investigations bureau, and talking to the sergeant, getting information, giving information, details, and just trying to come up with next steps.
The family provided everything they possibly could to police: information about Nina, her relationships, her social media, anything that might help reconstruct the timeline of her final days and weeks.
Clues. We were looking at her social media to kind of see where she was or what she posted, things like that. And like Amanda said, this was October, and so we were a few months behind. So it was a lot that we could not get access to. But in the beginning, it did really feel like we were making some leadway.
There was talk about DNA. Um, I watched enough crime shows, right, to know that you can find, answers with just the smallest shred of evidence. The hope was that people would talk, they would see her story, calls would flood in. Unfortunately, things died down really quickly.
However, one particularly puzzling piece of evidence did emerge during the investigation: prepaid debit cards that had been loaded with money.
So the debit cards, one of the things that brought alarm bells was, if she had these businesses, if she had all of these things that she was doing, why would you do that? You load those when you don't want a paper trail. So there's something to who those went to, why she bought that, that was very interesting, that may help find the lead.
But with that, do we even know that it was Nina who loaded the money onto those cards? Because what if someone like pretended to be her and then loaded the money on the cards, you know?
Absolutely. That is a great hypothesis. I mean, it could be, and because we don't know.
More and more time started going by. The days turned to weeks and weeks to months. The urgency from authorities just wasn't there anymore. Calls weren't being returned as promptly, and updates became more and more scarce.
And I think in the investigation, when her story didn't look picture perfect, it didn't uh, seem newsworthy enough to pull on the heartstrings. Um, it felt like her life didn't matter, and things began to be swept under the rug.
It's a troubling reality. Studies have consistently shown disparities in how cases are covered in media and pursued by law enforcement based on factors like race, socioeconomic status, and perceived lifestyle choices of the victim.
When you have someone with biases, I mean, they're right there, right? And it's the things that you automatically think about as a person that from your life experience, right? In this particular case, that could have happened. I'm not saying it didn't, but this case was already cold.
One question that hasn't been definitively answered is, did Nina know the person who killed her? Did she trust them? Or was this a random stranger? Analyzing the details of the crime scene, Dr. Warner shares her perspective on the potential relationship between Nina and her killer.
Most likely, I think it's someone that she knew. And the reason I say that is that he covered her up and she had facial fractures. So a lot of times when you have a fractures in the face or you have a gunshot in the face, you have something where someone had to see you. That's personal, right? So there was a rage that happened. There was something that this person perceived that made him angry or her angry, because we don't know the gender really, right? But there's something that was perceived here that made them angry. And then they also cared about her somewhere because they covered them up.
There's another disturbing element to consider in Nina's case. Around the same period, another woman was found murdered in similar circumstances, just streets away from where Nina was discovered. Dr. Warner analyzed this potential connection.
I do know about the other case that was out there. That case was a little bit different, right? And so, yes, you did have that the person was beaten in the face and then it was right near the same place, and that Nina and this person ran in the same circles. That also leads us to say there was some other lifestyle that was going on here. So, yes, they could be connected. Likely, we don't know, right? But if they were, the first one may have been like, oh my God, I killed this person. I cared about her. Let me cover her up. The second one wasn't covered up and they were left there. So either they didn't know them as well or they didn't care about them as much, right? But then all of a sudden you don't see it again. That's the part that I'm looking at. You don't see it again. So what happened? Did the person die? Were they incarcerated? Or was this connected and then that's over and now this person has removed themselves?
The more time that went by, the more discouraging it became. Things just weren't panning out in the investigation. No leads, no answers, just a sense of not knowing what happened to their beloved sister and that her killer was still out there somewhere.
Unfortunately, I don't think we got any like clues or tips through like the hotline, like the rewards hotline. We were trying to get some information, see if anybody could give some anonymous tips, but we were not successful with that.
I know things probably take time. Um, and I believe that the sergeant who was working with us put in really great efforts. He was supportive and communicative for a while, but then I think he was on the verge of retiring, and I'm sure there's processes and high crime city, all these things. Perhaps her story was one that was easily placed on the back burner.
The state of Nina's remains presented another big challenge for the case. With her body being found so severely decomposed, that meant that certain types of forensic evidence was simply no longer available.
So, because of the state of her body, I did understand that, and the time frame, I did understand that we were at a disadvantage. Um, but I had so much hope that we would have more resolve than we did. And just more support. I thought my phone would be ringing off the hook, trying to get answers and people reaching out and wanting to share her story and also, find justice, but it just wasn't. Um, Everything dried up and I didn't hear back from anyone until now.
Now it's been almost 11 years since Nina's death. So much time has gone by, and nothing has brought closure or resulted in her killer being brought to justice. There's been no suspects, no arrests, and no answers. So, what type of person could evade justice for so long?
So this person is likely incarcerated or dead. It doesn't seem like the circles that she was running in at that time had people who were, on certain parts of society, right? So this something was occurring in her life that this is a person that may not, right, be with us anymore or been taken out of regular society.
The investigation into Nina's death had stalled. With no new evidence, no witnesses coming forward, and no technological breakthroughs, her case became one of the thousands of unsolved cases left without answers. Her family is pleading for anyone with information to come forward, for law enforcement to ramp up their efforts, and for the public's attention to her case.
I would like to see the person responsible be held accountable and, turned in and them to, pay for what they did, honestly. It's important to share her story because her life matters. It mattered to us, to her family, to her friends, everybody that loved her. Um, she didn't deserve what happened to her. She had so much more life to live, so many more dreams to accomplish, so many things to do and see. She was a traveler. She didn't get to see the world. I would just say, if you know something, if you remember anything that could give us some clues, some direction, to please come forward. Even if you think it's insignificant, anything that you remember, any pictures, any timestamps, just any information would be helpful, to help us. And just as far as law enforcement, just to hopefully pick it back up. Don't give up. Don't let it remain a cold case. Like, we really deserve to know, the truth.
Nina's younger brother, Chris, hopes that sharing her story will spark new attention to the case.
Well, for me, I hope that it reignites the fire and the fight for everybody that knew her, anybody who was in the same circles to come forward. I know some time has passed, but I'm really just hoping that, somebody with some valuable information will come forward. I would just like people to think about, what if this was your sister? What if this was your mother? What if this was somebody close to you? You would stop at nothing. And this is something that is still very near and dear to a lot of people's hearts.
When we talk about violence against Black women in America, the numbers tell a story that's impossible to ignore. According to a recent study published in the Lancet Medical Journal, between 1999 and 2020, Black women were murdered at an average rate nearly 6 times higher than white women. Their findings also revealed that nearly 45% of Black women in America will experience stalking, physical abuse, or sexual violence in their lifetime. And when it comes to homicide, the danger often comes from someone they know. An estimated 51% of Black female adult homicides are tied to intimate partner violence. According to Dr. Warner, taking note of the small things is more critical than ever.
So like if you're dating someone, pay attention to how they treat the waitress. Pay attention to how they talk to their dog. Pay attention to all those nuances, or your gut going off saying, well, that was kind of odd. Don't ignore that, because your gut is one of the things that keeps you it keeps you safe. There's a point to it. There's why you have intuition. Intuition is a big thing.
For Lydia, seeking justice for Nina is just one part of the mission. She hopes that sharing her sister's story can help prevent another tragedy.
I think something that's really important for me in sharing her story is not just for justice, um, but if we can save someone else, if we can prevent this from happening to someone else, um, by drawing them in with our love, checking in more often, um, knowing who they're surrounding themselves with is important.
Dr. Warner sheds light on the unique trauma faced by families of unsolved homicides.
There's no closure. It's like forever having an open bandage on your arm, because that wound never closes. No matter how much you sew it up, no matter how much you try, you get different colors tape, and you go to see every doctor that says they're going to fix you. It's there, right? Because they don't know the cause to your wound.
I would say, just like Chris did, she was everything for us. And she mattered. She mattered. And her story of resilience, of love, of generosity, the capacity that she had to forgive, her drive, her unfulfilled dreams, it doesn't stop because someone decided that they wanted to take that away from us. Her dreams live on.
I want the family to know all of what they're doing is normal. I know they're looking for answers and thinking that they missed something. They may not have missed anything. And, the distrust and all of the thoughts that are going into their mind about what they could have done or what people should be doing or all of that, that is all normal. Their life was changed. It was changed when they found out and understood she was dead, right? And at that moment, they had life with her and they had life without her. And life without her for them is a lot harder because something's missing. But everything they're doing is on the sphere of, in the range of, how do I cope? How do I grieve? And how do I honor her memory? And there's nothing wrong with that.
A story marked by a great loss, but also hope for closure. A hope that someone, somewhere, knows something and will come forward. Hope that law enforcement will renew their efforts. And above all, a hope that one day, Nina will finally receive the justice she deserves.
Social media is an amazing platform. I mean, there's like two brothers out there who might be getting out of prison because of social media, right? Well, yeah, and that's a big deal. So imagine if you begin to just post and post and post about this case on different platforms. People's memories jog by seeing things, by hearing things. And they say, you know what? I remember there was some guy who hung around that church and he just never left. And that there's a lead, and then you're running, and then you're going, right? So what I would use the technology that we have now and the media that's out there now to help me, right? So say a big network doesn't want to take this on. That's okay, because now anyone can take this out to the airwaves, right? And keep talking about it. Maybe that's your passion. Maybe that's your thing. You never know how people are going to line up and connect and give you some peace to keep going.
Unfortunately, solving Nina's case won't bring her back. It won't erase the pain her family has endured these past years. But it would provide answers, accountability, and some sense of closure.
Because she did have a lot of people that loved her, family, friends included. And so really that's what I'm hoping for, a spark of you know, renewed riveted action towards solving this.
Anyone with information about Nina Cook's case should contact the Memphis Police Department or Crime Stoppers. You can find their contact information in the description box below. I want to extend my deepest thanks to Nina Cook's family for sharing her story, and to Dr. Debra Warner for her insights into the case. I hope they're able to get justice for Nina and to get the closure they deserve. As we close out this episode, don't forget to hit the follow button to stay updated on Nina's case and others like it. Be sure to subscribe to Hunting for Answers on YouTube, where you can watch the video version of this episode. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more true crime content and case updates. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, drop your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.